Hello, welcome to Puzzle Master. Today I'm going to be showing you the solution for the Hanayama Vortex puzzle, which means I'm going to show you what seemingly is the impossible task of disconnecting those three intertwined pieces into separate pieces, and then how you can reassemble it all back into that nice vortex shape. Now the vortex is a level 6 out of a possible 6 on Hanayama's own difficulty scale, and it is a level 10 out of 10 on our Puzzle Master difficulty scale. So it is one of the hardest, if not the hardest, puzzle, especially from Hanayama, that you can get. And if you haven't already got the Vortex puzzle, you can pick it up from our website puzzlemaster.ca. And without further ado, let's crack on with that impossible solution. Okay, so here is a fully assembled Vortex puzzle. Now, before we start taking this apart and make it look very, very confusing, first of all, we're going to do a little bit of housekeeping, if you like. So we're going to identify which piece is which. There is the Vortex piece, which is this piece up here, and you can identify that one very easily because of the big groove in its big hook. So each piece has a big hook here and a little hook on the inside here. We've got the Vortex piece here, we've got the AY piece here, I think, and we've got the Hanayama piece down here. So I'm going to refer to each piece by its proper name, how it is engraved on the back, and that each piece has a big hook and a little hook on the inside. Now, generally speaking, this one is very, very fiddly. So there's going to be certain positions that are hard to see what's happening because there's other bits getting in the way and sort of shifting around. But as a general aim, we're aiming to first unhook all the little hooks or untangle all the little hooks. And then once we've done that, we can then focus on the big hooks in here. So what we are going to do to start with is we're going to lift the three big hooks so we sort of get into this position here. Our focus to start with is on the Vortex piece, this one up here with the groove in the middle of the big hook. This one is the one that we're going to untangle first. So we're going to lift into this position, and then we're going to bring this AY piece through until this knobbly bit here comes through the big hook of that Vortex piece. And we can then use this groove underneath here to slide this big hook of the Hanayama piece out of the little hook of the Vortex piece. Now that's a lot of talking and a lot of different bits, but this one's a ridiculously hard puzzle to do. So what we're going to do, we're going to use that groove here to get out of this little hook, and we do that just like that. That should slide out fairly easily when you're in the right position. Now we're going to keep our focus on this Vortex piece, and now we're going to use that big groove in the big hook of the Vortex piece to come underneath the little hook of the Hanayama piece. So, and to do that, we are going to come down into this position. This piece is just getting in the way, or will always get in the way slightly. So we want to line it up in here, and then we can just maneuver it underneath into this position here. So here you'll see that the Vortex piece is pretty much now quite free, relatively speaking. So its little hook is free from everything else, and its big hook isn't in the little hook of any other pieces. So next, our focus is going to be on untangling these two other little hooks. And what we're going to do is essentially feed this AY piece through the entire part of the AY piece. We're going to feed it through the little hook of the Hanayama piece. And to do this, it's nice and simple to start with. We just simply come to here, but then we hit a sticking point where we've got this knobbly bit that gets in the way. Now here we're going to have to move the Vortex piece out of the way so we can twist it so that the knobbly bit fits through this little hook, but it's also going to put it in a position where it gets in the way of a few other moves. So if we turn down into this position, we can then get that knobbly bit past and through the other side when that Vortex piece wants to move, and we can get it through into this side of that little hook. We are then going to keep our focus on this big hook, and we're going to keep feeding it through that little hook. Again, the Vortex piece We'll want to also come down into this position, so using that little groove there, the vortex piece is going to want to slip into this hook a lot of the time. But what we want to do is just focus on feeding this all the way through here. So again, we've got another sticking point with that knobbly bit, but if we're in the right position, it'll slip through quite nicely. And you'll notice here that the vortex piece has now come into this little hook. It can at this position, it's easy to get out. It'll want to get into that position the whole time you're doing it, but it's very simple to get out. We just use that groove to get it back out. Now we've fed the entire AY piece through the Hanayama little hook, and now we've got to a point where we can use this tiny little groove on the big hook of the AY piece to slide under and out of the little hook of the Hanayama piece. So we line those two pieces up in here and we just pass underneath there. And now you'll notice that we've got all three little hooks completely free. The only things that are tangled now are the big hooks of all the pieces. And now we're going to come back and focus on the vortex piece. We're going to hold it up in this position and we're going to rearrange the other two pieces so that we look like this. So their big hooks are facing towards us here. Now we need to turn this tangle of big hooks into essentially a chain. And this is pretty much the last move. What we're going to now do is pass the big hook of the Hanayama piece over the big hook of the AY piece. And you have to use the big hook of the vortex piece and the widest part for it to pass over. Because this move is very simple like that. It just sort of sprung out of position. So we end up here and we just pass under and over and into this position. Now that move can be a lot trickier than I've just made it look. That's possibly the easiest I've ever done it. And we end up then in this position, we've sort of created a chain. And again, we just continue holding the vortex piece, and all we now do is slide off the Hanayama piece, slide off the AY piece, and that is how we disassemble the very challenging vortex puzzle. And to reassemble the vortex puzzle, it is a reversal of all those moves, but the orientation and things that you should focus on change slightly. So we're again going to hold the vortex puzzle, the vortex piece. We are going to grab the Hanayama piece, the AY piece first. We're grabbing the AY piece, we're sliding that on in this position and letting it hang out there. We're going to do exactly the same with the Hanayama piece. We slide it on, we let it hang together, and we're now retangling the hooks. So the AY piece is going underneath this Hanayama piece. Again, this can be quite a tough move to get. It's very sort of easy to do, but sort of hard to do. It's only easy when you're in the exact right position to get it. And what we're going to do then is we're then going to get that Hanayama hook through to this side of the AY piece. And from here, we're now going to use this groove on the AY piece to go back into the little hook of the Hanayama piece. And again, so we're going to turn, well, we're going to get the vortex piece out of the way to start with. And once we've got it out of the way and round into this position here, we're then going to use that groove to slide underneath and into here. Like that. And again, this vortex piece is going to want to come into this little hook as well. Try and make sure it doesn't. It's easy to get it out if it does happen, but try and make sure it doesn't. And what we're then going to do is feed this AY piece all the way through this little hook of the Hanayama piece. So again, we've got that first sticking point here, which is that knobbly bit just in there. We maneuver each piece down into this position. We make sure that vortex piece doesn't drop in like it has done there. And we can then feed that knobbly bit through. And then once that vortex piece is out of the way, we just keep feeding that AY piece all the way through. Again, we'll hit sticking point number 2, which is that second knobbly bit. Just make sure the vortex piece is in the right position. So we turn all the way around. I'll try and move the vortex piece so we can see it a bit easier. Yep, so there, we want to get that vortex pieces come in, we don't want it to come in. And you can see how challenging this puzzle is. There's bits that get in the way when you don't want them to get in the way. So we get, come on, there we go. So we get that knobbly bit passed through the little hook. So this is the AY piece coming through the little hook of the Hanayama piece. So once we're in this position, we're switching our focus to the vortex piece, and we're going to use that big groove in the big hook to come back under the little hook of the AY piece. So we slide underneath there and into this position. And now we've got one final move to do, but everything just seems to be all complicated at the minute. Or this is as tangled as it will get, so this is sort of the hardest move to do. But if you can get your puzzle into this position here, we're going to be focusing on this knobbly bit here of the AY piece, and we want to put this on the other side in here of this big hook of the vortex piece. And at the same time, or not at the same time, but once we've done that, we can then use this groove in here on the Hanayama piece to slide under into the little hook of the vortex piece. So first of all, we're going to make sure that this knobbly bit is on this side, like it is there. And then we're going to use the groove in the big hook, or just at the start of the big hook of the Hanayama piece, to then slide, so this way, there we go. So this groove in here is coming underneath here. And once it goes underneath, all we have to do is essentially just let it fall into place, and we have reassembled the extremely complicated, extremely tough to do vortex puzzle. So there it is. That is the solution to the seemingly impossible vortex puzzle. Even knowing the solution, it is extremely difficult to follow along to and to actually get done. It's very satisfying once you eventually manage it. Personally, it took me about 3 days to do this for the first time, and weeks and months of practice to mastering that solution. So if you are struggling to follow along at all, do not be discouraged. Keep trying. You will eventually solve it. And once you have solved it, then you should get some more puzzles just like the vortex puzzle from our website, puzzlemaster.ca, where we have the biggest variety of puzzles on the internet in the world. And until next time, I will see you later.